What is going on today, guys? Everything is different here. Different hair, different mic. I'm not going to explain any of it, okay? We're going to be doing WNN, but we're going to be focusing on a single story. We're going to be talking about how Apple is fucking Patreon, and then Patreon is fucking the users. Well, basically, it's just Apple fucking the users of Patreon. So what is Patreon? For those of you that don't know, for those of you that are not terminally online, but are still terminally online enough to watch this content right here. Patreon is a place where you can pledge money to your favorite creators and you get rewards. Okay, so Apple is going to add a 30% fee on all Patreon subscriptions made through iOS. For some reason, Apple woke up a few days ago and we're just like, you know what? Spotify is taking all of the attention right now. Everybody hates Spotify so much. Let us get in on that. We need to get in on that hate bandwagon. I want people to hate me. Everyone's hating Spotify. Why can't they hate me? We're going to talk about Apple software. It's like Apple Music, you know, their favorite, at least compared to Spotify. I mean, it's pretty hard to not beat a steaming pile of shit. But somehow they've made themselves unlikable. So I'm not sure if they decided like, hey, you know, we need some controversy, or hey, we're not making enough money. Or maybe they're seeing all the money that Patreon's making and they're like, you know what? I want that. I want that. Give me 30% of that. So creators on Patreon are upset because of this new policy. So Patreon recently released a article about this, and it's going to go into effect on November 4th. Apple's requirements are about to hit creators and fans on Patreon. Here's what you need to know. Fuck Apple. That's what it should say there. Fuck Apple. That's probably what they wanted to put. They wanted to write fuck Apple after that, but they're like, you know what? Too much smoke. We don't want them charging us 50%. Understandable. But you should have said it, in my opinion. You should have said it. You gotta tell them to fuck off. So it seems like they're gonna give you two options here. Whether you can charge more to cover the iOS app prices, or you can keep prices the same and then pay the fee yourself. Both options suck, sadly. Both of those options are not good. Your fans are gonna pay more money if you do the first one, and then you're gonna pay more money if you do the second one. So basically, if you're doing it on an iOS device and not using a browser, you are gonna have to purchase it through their app store, which is really stupid. I don't understand. Like, I guess they're only doing this because Patreon is pretty big. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to tax people like this, especially when there's like not a whole lot of reason to, other than the fact that they're making a lot of money. Like, what is the reason other than making money? So to make it clear here, don't be mad at Patreon, be mad at Apple. The way it appears here, Patreon is being held by the balls by Apple. Essentially, if Patreon doesn't follow along with what Apple is saying, they're gonna kick them off the App Store altogether, which honestly, I would personally be like, fuck you. But like, I understand that's going to cut down their user base a lot. Since this is happening, they decided to go about this a particular way. They want to give transparency, control, and stability. So they're communicating to us early to help us understand exactly what is happening and what our options are. They want to give us a clear understanding of the trade-offs, whichever direction we want to go, and give us the ability to make the decision that we see best fit. And then make sure we're able to maintain our earnings and continue to grow our business. So I didn't know this, but they actually announced this last year. If they did, I must be memory holing it. So basically, if you use the Patreon iOS app, you will get charged an extra 30%, or that 30% will come out of our pockets, one of the two. So essentially, the solution is to use a browser. That you're going to want to use a browser. You know, I feel like a lot of people use a browser anyways for Patreon. I feel like this is not affecting too many people. Personally, for me at least, I can't imagine using a Patreon app to give to creators. I only have the Patreon app because I am a creator. God, that was cringe. I'm sorry for the cringe, guys. So to be clear here, this will not impact existing members. This will only impact new memberships going forward. So that is one good thing. It could be a lot worse if they retroactively started charging more to anyone who is using a Mac. I think that would actually make people less likely to use a Mac. I mean, I'm not sure by how much, but that kind of boundary stepping is unacceptable in my opinion. This is unacceptable too, but it's more tolerable. So essentially they built this tool to give you the two options based on creator feedback, which makes sense because I don't know what other options there would be other than to say fuck Apple. So if there was a reason to go for an Android, this might be a small reason other than paying less money and that thing where they make the phone shitty when a new phone comes out, if that's real. Long story short, Apple was like, hey, we're gonna cuck you, Patreon. Get in the chair. The only way this could really get shittier is if Android was like, you know what? That's a good idea. We should do that. In fact, let's also do it with the browser. And then all the browser companies conspire together to be like, you know what? Let's cuck Patreon too. Let's all get together and cuck Patreon. November is actually pretty soon. That's not that far away. Forgot for a second it was August. So there is one kind of interesting change here. It's not really interesting. It's interesting in the way that like herpes is interesting. Any creator currently on first of the month or per creation billing plans will about to switch over to subscription billing to continue earning in the iOS app, because that is the only billing type Apple's in-app purchase system supports. Those of you that are patrons or are Patreon creators, what are your thoughts on this? Let me know down in the comments. I mean, I'm pretty sure no one's going to be on Apple's side here. I don't know anyone who'd be like, yeah, unless you're Steve Jobs. Okay, guys, that's it for this episode of WNN. Just kidding. It's a single story of WNN. I didn't want to do a whole fucking thing again. The editing takes too long, and we're trying to do it daily. We're trying to do daily if we can. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't. Subscribing really helps the channel. Press the like button. If you press the like button, I promise you I will cover the Patreon thing, like the fee. Please don't use the iOS app, please. Anyways, Apple, you're greedy. Fuck you. Patreon, you're cool. And that's it. If you want to support what I do here, consider joining my Patreon. Ha ha ha. I'll see you guys next time.